There is nothing a man can't do once he accepts the fact there is no God. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Gershon. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Don't Breathe. Released in 2016 from Ghost House Pictures. Directed by Fede Alvarez. Starring Stephen Lang, Dylan Minnette, and Jane Levy. I would definitely put this in the home invasion category of horror. Yes, horror has many subgenres, and one of them is home invasion, and this definitely fits in that genre for sure. So the film stars Stephen Lang as a blind man who's a army veteran of the Gulf War. And we meet these three, like, small time, and I'm talking small time burglars, you know. They pulled off a couple hits, you know, successfully, so they decide they take a step up to a big one, you know. One of them, I mean, you don't get a whole lot of character development in this film. It's only 88 minutes long. So further proof that you can make a compelling, exciting, entertaining horror film in only 88 minutes. You don't need 2.5 hours like so many of today's movies, you know. So yeah, this is a great example of that. There's lots of great action, tension, suspense, it's thrills and chills, and you only need 88 minutes. But with that, I'll say you don't get a whole lot of character development, really. You just get the basic gist of who these characters are, you know. It's not, we don't get a whole lot of insight into their background, you know. So the basic gist is Jane is like a poor girl from a poor neighborhood. She lives in a trailer. Her mom's like trailer trash, basically. And this kid Dylan, who really likes her, he seems like a pretty clean cut, like with a normal family and everything. I have no idea why he's doing this. And then you got this kid, Money, who's like straight street thug, you know. Small-time junkie thug, you know, burglar. And he's wet behind the ears. All three of them are basically teenagers, you know, so they're wet behind the ears. They have no idea what they're doing, really, you know. They're in way over the head, and especially when they're dealing with Stephen Lang as Norman Nordstrom. Let me tell you, this guy, if you know him from some of his other films, like VFW, and he was in Avatar and stuff like that, you know that he's a legit badass, you know. He's definitely an older guy, but he's in great shape. He's like jacked to the nines. He's a really good actor. And he plays the part of grizzled old veteran to perfection in this movie. So what happens is, they get a tip about this guy, you know. Apparently, his daughter was killed in an accident. And he sues and he gets a 6-figure settlement, you know. So he's well-to-do, you know. He has a lot of money. He earned over 6 figures for that, you know. And but his daughter was killed, you know. So you can't imagine he's going to be too happy, but he's got lots of money, and that's the point. The burglars want to break into his house. They see him as, you know, he's just an old blind man, you know. Should be an easy, quick getaway, you know, with the cash in hand, about $1 million or so. And, you know, they break in. At first, it seems like, you know, they find him that he is home and he's sleeping. He gets up for a second, but then he falls back asleep. And everything seems to be going well, you know, they're scoping out the house and everything, you know. And for a rich dude, he's got kind of just a regular old house that's kind of a little bit run down even, and a little bit of a rundown neighborhood. It's not like this big, huge estate, this big mansion or something, you know. It's a pretty normal house. So they kind of scope around, sneak around, you know, see what they can get, see if they can find the money where he's got the safe hidden. And once they start making a little bit of noise, bam, he wakes up and is like, "Who's there?" And they're like, "Oh shit," they see he's like, big jack guy, you know, he ain't the one, like Ice Cube says. He's not gonna go quietly. They realize that. And he's packing heat too. He's got his gun with him from the army. And we realize he has great heightened senses of hearing and smelling, and you know. And they say that about blind people, is that they have very heightened senses. All their other senses are heightened. And he uses those to his advantage, you know. And taking out these burglars who have invaded his home, you know. They're trying to take his money. And another thing is, he's got Cujo on his side. Yes, he has this big, nasty, hairy, you know, slimy dog, you know, looks just like Cujo. So it's a good guard dog to have in your house too when people breaking into your house, you know. So these dumb kids, you know, had no idea what they were in for in dealing with this guy, you know. So who do you think he takes out first? The dumb one, the street thug, you know, he takes him right out real quick, just strangles him and blasts him right in the chin, you know. And then he sets his sights on the other two. First the guy, Money, says, you know, he asks how many are in here, you know, when he's choking them out. And at least he does one thing in his life that's kind of right. He says, "It was just me, man, it's just me." But he knows better. He knows there's other people in the house, even though they don't make a sound. And of course, one of the guys gives it away when he walks on a creaky piece of wood as soon as he hears that, he's like, you know. And there's a great tension-filled, suspenseful scene once he kind of waves his gun around and he's using his sense of hearing to find out where they are in the room, you know. And you can see he's got them dead in the sights, but then he kind of moves on, you know. It's great suspense in this film. Great direction by Fede Alvarez. It looks great. It looks like a sleek, modern horror film, but it's also got really good tension and suspense. Yeah, it's not just, you know, jump scares left and right, you know. There are a few good jump scares, but it's not like, you know, one of those crappy ghost movies where you see a jump scare every 5 seconds. No. This is about suspense and tension. And it's got some pretty good gore, too. It's never, like, over the top. It's very realistic type of blood and gore, you know. And there aren't a whole lot of deaths, you know, because we're only dealing with, like, the 3 main burglars. So at first you're kind of almost rooting for Stephen Lang's character, Norman, to take out these young, wet behind the ears kids trying to steal his money, you know. But then you realize there's something much more, much deeper going on with this guy than meets the eye. Something more sinister. This is a horror movie after all. He's not just some ex-army guy, this veteran, you know, with a chip on his shoulder. There's much more to it than that. We know that his daughter was killed, was run over in a car accident. So that definitely comes into play later on, especially in the final act of the film. And boy, we see just how nuts this guy is, you know. He's got some really bad intentions, you know. And we realize that underneath, under his, in the basement of his house, he's got something real dark hidden beneath. He's got this young woman chained up in this, like, what kind of weird harness thing, you know, chained up, and she can't even barely move around, you know. And then we find out that that's the woman that ran over and killed his daughter. But there's much more to it than that. And I'm not going to spoil that, because that's one of the best things about this movie. It's got a great, great twist in the end. And you find out just how devious Norman is and his evil intentions. Once he tracks down this young woman, Roxy, you know. And so yeah, it seems like there's going to be the typical final girl type situation, but it's not like that at all. And that's one of the things I like most about this movie. It's not that typical, oh, he killed off all the others and there's one girl remaining to be the hero, to save the day by taking this villain out, you know. It's not like that at all. You think it's going to be like that, but there's a lot of twists and turns to it, you know. It doesn't end like you would expect. And that's what makes this film so good. It's very compelling, tension-filled, great suspense. Excellent, excellent horror film, and I highly recommend Don't Breathe. I give it 2 devil horns up, and thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Gershon, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.